Yeah, it's very exciting. I mean, today's the day we find out really if this whole idea of building from what I can see from my front door is feasible or not. The key person obviously is the builder. That's Dylan, who's all the way from Sussex. There's not many people with these kind of skills around here.
I got into natural building. I think it's always been in me, but I never figured it out until I was probably in my late 30s, and I went on a training course at Ben Law's, creating with roundwood.
And then the other key person is Jim McConkey he's the head forester at Longleat, and Jim manages all the woodlands we can see from my front door. And then we've also got Ash, the Renewables Guy, as part of the team that's doing the battery on the side of the cottage and the EV charger down at the garage, and Paul Fallows, who's a local Thatcher. I think between us we have all the pieces of the puzzle, but yeah, let's find out if we can do it. So we are gathered here today to see if this is feasible. The basic plan is to try and see if it's possible to build an extension here using, as far as possible, without being religious about it, what we can see from here. And what we can see from here is Longleat woodlands and that field. And this is what people who built that 500 years ago used to build it. So the idea is that still possible? And can we do it cheaper than building from standard materials? I'm getting some pretty scary quotes from people about this extension. So the idea is to sort of mirror that flat roof extension on that side, on this side of the cottage. Once we get rid of that kerosene tank and the boiler, there's space for it here. So it's 12 metres long. It's just the footprint of the house, basically. So 2, 3, 4, 5. So it would come out to about here and then just square. That's it. Yeah. So the question is, what could possibly go wrong? What I'm hoping is between you all, you can fill in all the gaps of knowledge that we have. Start with you, Dylan. I've filmed Ben, and I like the idea of doing it around wood, but is it feasible, do you think?
Well, I think anything's feasible. It's just depending on what you want, really, at the end of the day, and what's close by.
Yeah. Then it's a question of whether, costing it to see if it's viable, because it's still my savings we're talking about. Yeah. And then what kind of timber, and then if Jim can provide it from how close.
Yeah. If we were to go 5 kilometres, we then go into the softwood areas. We're on the different soils, just like literally over the hill there, where we can choose larch, western red cedar, some of the things that might be the right shape, but might not have the necessary durability. What's the longevity? Do you want to build it out of oak or out of softwood? And there is a price difference.
And then the other missing bit of the puzzle is it possible to build the roofs essentially out of solar panels? Because having got the battery and the EV charger, that's the next thing.
But it's certainly feasible to have a large proportion of the roof in solar panels. Like I said, the subbase will need to be there, the timbers, the battens, all that needs to be in place, because on the edges you still need to have an element of roof tile, be it slate or standard tile, to go onto the edge.
We have actually done a project where the solar panels were integrated into a tray, and then you leave all up around the edge. So
exactly that.
Okay, so that's was it hard, or was it?
No, it seemed for us really it was pretty straightforward.
My only concern obviously is having the solar panels on the roof.
Yeah.
We need to consider when this comes around to being thatched next time, a ladder is going to need to be placed on that roof.
Okay.
They're going up to the ridge, maybe even slightly further. You don't want the base of a ladder sitting on top of solar panels.
No, of course not. No.
If they can be covered and protected, or they can be moved significantly back, so access can be made to get in there to do chimney repairs.
That's the good thing about doing it at the design stage now. All these things can be picked up.
What about building materials?
Well, so building materials. So are we talking a pitched roof here then?
I mean, from a solar panel point of view, you want about a 30-degree angle or something?
That's optimum. Yeah, that is optimum.
Yeah. Do you have a preference for flat or pitched?
It's how you integrate your extension on the side here, and if you have another pitched roof, then you would have to have something flat coming from that, then pitched. You wouldn't be able to pitch straight from there, would you? Be a nightmare.
No. It's more of a want than a need, but it's also a sort of investment, because this is my main asset, like most people.
I suppose it's probably the planning's going to be the thing for you guys as well, isn't it?
This is another question I got for you. Do we need an architect? Or?
Well, to be honest, I think you guys will probably be the best architects, because you know what you want in some ways, and it's just formulating all the other bits, like talking about your solar panels and access, for the Thatcher and stuff like that, and what's locally.
I'd save money by not having an architect, but it's a question of what they can bring to it or not. So what you reckon between us, if we could come up with a planning thing and then if it fails, then maybe you need to bring an architect in. But what do you think?
I mean, well, you can submit your own plans
Yeah.
for planning permission, but then there is other things you've got to take into account, like building control, maybe structurals and stuff like that. But
Okay.
they generally want a fee for it.
Yeah.
The old days of going in there and saying, well, this is what I'm thinking of doing, are sort of gone by, really.
Yeah.
They all need to be accountable.
Architects who are building near here, they're talking about 250 quid a square foot
Yeah,
without any fittings, just for the building cost.
yeah.
And that's for a development. So he said for one-off like this with an awkward access, make it 300. Kind of out the question. It's just not good business. But so it'll have to be significantly cheaper for it to be worth it.
Mm.
I'm hoping that I can eliminate the labour costs by getting mates to do it in the way that Ben did.
Yeah.
The other costs are professional fees, which will be whatever they're going to be.
Yeah.
But then the other thing is materials.
Yeah.
You know, so if I get quotes from local builders, they'll be, you know, costing concrete blocks from around the world and steel and stuff. So what are you building with at the moment?
Mainly wood, but we've moved into using hempcrete as an insulator, which we've hand cast rather than blocks. We find that's ticks quite a lot of boxes, and
so that's
less
exactly
risk.
like using concrete, except it's
Yeah,
organic materials.
Yeah, it's quite similar to the concrete world. In we use shuttering, and we have to mix it and hand place it, and then move the shuttering up. But it's a far simpler process than some of the layers that we've been involved in the past, where we're using sheep's wool and wood fibre boards, straw bale.
So it's easier and quicker than cheaper than straw bale.
It's less labour intense, and there's less risk with the hempcrete.
Well, I had the idea of using Paul's cast off straw because it's probably more trouble than it's worth. But maybe hempcrete's easier, and presumably it's less space as well. You get more room, and less wall. Yeah,
it's absolutely that. You know, you can get performance from 240 mil up to about just over 300 mil thick.
So we get more room for our buck, basically. Yeah, that's the consideration too. So roundwood or sawn timber is the other sort of thing, which is where Jim's our local supplier. So
managing the local woodland, we know what we have got as a stock that's standing, but we got to look at the design as well, and how far the spans are to be, and how structural those timbers need to be, and depend on what species we have available and what's being used or chosen as to the durability of it in the ground, whether it's going directly into the soil or whether it's going on perhaps a stone or a concrete plinth on top.
At the moment we've got a little outdoor project where we're using sweet chestnut. They will be raised off the ground.
So you like put it on a...
We form like a concrete pad stone. It's just we put it in a griller bucket, to be honest, and let it go off and turn it upside down, and you've got a perfect pad stone, and it looks quite nice.
If you want something from over there, the chestnut is sort of this size, so it would be cleft rather than round, so it'd be quarter.
Yeah.
Which I don't know if you've done much work with cleft. And
I'm quite into the sweet chestnut.
Yeah, so we got we got sweet chestnut, but the diameter probably starts around 18 to 20. So again, it was not just a case of cutting it down and peeling it. It's going to need splitting with wedges, and sometimes that could be quite wasteful. But all those other small pieces that come off could perhaps go into the plaster work or the laths. Or
obviously we've got to cost all this up. Would you advise us doing it here, and having Jim deliver the trunks?
This tree here, this redwood, would be absolutely perfect for building this building here.
Oh really? I'd miss it though. But yeah, you can't get any closer. Yeah. Have you ever built out of that's a living fossil, that is. That's a metasequoia. Jim will tell you all about it.
Quite interestingly, it was discovered in China in 1940s. It was thought to be extinct before then, and I believe the gentleman that lived in this house during the time would have highly revered that tree, because he was into the redwood development across the rest of the estate, for which we have the largest redwood forest outside of America. And this tree would have been a great curiosity to him, so that's why that one is there. Could be part of the story that it makes its way back into the building as cladding.
It is a nice story. Have you ever built it with metasequoia?
I haven't.
Would do the work on site, or was that something you could do?
Well, if you were to have some uprights, some big round sweet chestnuts, it could be cleft in the wood. which is very traditional. So in the medieval period, before they had 100 horsepower tractor,
Yeah.
they would have cleft it in the wood and carried it out on their shoulder.
Yeah.
We can bring the wood to the bottom of your drive,
Yeah.
and you can cleave it there.
Yeah.
And the debris will go onto your wood burner.
Yes.
And you can carry it up the stairs to here.
Yeah.
It really depends on the carpentry on site as how they're working, what resources they have, or whether we send it away to a local sawmill.
Elsewhere on the estate, is there more suitable
We
diameter?
do, yeah. So the woodlands manage in a sustainable way that we've always got something available in most species. So we've got some sweet chestnut. We've got lots of, well, larch is a bit tricky in Britain at the moment, but there is some larch. There are some Douglas fir poles, which are also very useful. So there's a really good palette of materials. So what we're really going to need to see is, one, a little bit of the personality of the building coming out from its design, its space,
Yes.
the structural load bearing abilities it's going to need,
Yeah.
whether you're going to need an open span or whether you're going to go for a couple of load bearing things. We can choose a species to that. And then it's going to be round or square sawn. Again, do the planners demand something? When we look around, we're looking at the building internally and other timbers perhaps locally.
Yeah.
They are more waney edge, and so therefore we can have round and sawn.
Yeah. Let's if we decide on, for example, roundwood, just to start with, just because I filmed Ben and I love it, I think it looks great. And in terms of what I want living in it, I like the idea of seeing all the joints and each joint having a history, and especially if my mates did it, and as long as it won't fall down, it doesn't have to be perfect.
Yeah.
In fact, the imperfection is kind of part of the appeal, you know.
Yeah.
But so let's start with roundwood, which means it won't be stuff we can see from here, but maybe elsewhere on the estate. What kind of diameter are we talking about?
Generally, we build with 8 inch, about 8 inch diameter.
Got some of that?
Yeah. What you're going to do with the big bit off the bottom, I have to cut to get the bit that you want.
Oh, I see. It's not because it's not coppice, so that bit would have to be from the top of the tree.
Well, what do you do with that bit? What do you do with the skinny bit?
Yeah.
And so therefore, that's why that cut now becomes a choice cut.
So this is actually just like you buy a chicken and then you use it all, or a pig or something. So, but this is just resource-led design. That's what the architect's called. You start with your pig and then you design your menu. So it's the same kind of thing.
Yeah.
We could just buy a tree off you.
You could buy some whole trees,
Then that's more work.
We do have uses for the other pieces, the other cuts. There are markets for them. We have a cutting program. That's what we're cutting. This is our basic ham, egg, and chips. But at the minute we're going off menu, we want to have something that fits in that hole. We then have to go looking for it.
Would it be stupid to go along and just basically look at your offcuts and see if we could build from that?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Because
I mean, that's literally, you know, if it's low value to you, but it's good enough
the
for
other thing
us.
is the way we thin our woodland is we leave the assets standing. So we're taking a percentage of the woodland every year of the less favourable, dead, dying, diseased, dangerous trees out of it. So what we're actually harvesting is a much lower value until a customer or a client comes along and says, actually, we want that. Might be a historic ship's mast or some decking or a beam for a heritage house or something, and that's where it's really nice to go out and work with the carpenters, the joiners, and they can say, oh, look at that, that's exactly what we want. It's really, really good. But when we're doing that, the clock starts the minute we pick the phone up and we start walking around the woodland and we're shopping with premium stuff, and you would pay a premium price for it. However, still a low value price.
That already sounds cheaper than getting concrete blocks. And
But if you're getting the right stuff, then the carpenter's going to be much happier. Yeah. And it's going to cost less per hour to convert that to what we want.
Okay.
So we discussed about whether you're going to finish the actual building with the cladding sort of side to it.
Yeah. Well, again, that's open. They might not want cladding. Maybe they might want cladding. The planners, you might want something a bit of got quite hard surfaces around there, all stone and stuff. So they might beg to have something else.
Mr. Trollope that lived here, instrumental in getting the redwood forest going at Longleat. We could get a piece of redwood from there and get it milled out and make your cladding.
Because of this slope, this view is what matters.
Yeah.
So,
And because this side no one's going to see, the back side it's only the cows that see it. So really, I think all the focus and design is really about what this bit looks like.
down at Longleat we had this project in 2016 called the Long House, and we looked at the cladding that had been used from our own sawmills over the last 100 years, and we have a pattern of a 6 by 1.5 inch board, and then a 2 inch batten that goes over the top of that to join the boards.
That sounds perfect. It's local resources, local design. You like the sound of that, Dylan?
I do, absolutely.
Yeah.
And is it hard?
What's that?
Can you train my mates to make it for free? I mean, not you. I'll pay you, but I won't pay them.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. You'll find everyone will have some sort of skill
Yeah.
to help, even if it's just making a cup of tea for everyone.
Yeah.
You know, depends what finish you want. You know, if you're like in the round wood I did, you could see the beams inside.
Yeah.
And it could be plastered out in between.
Yeah.
Which is quite nice as well.
Yeah. I mean, I like the idea of seeing the joints. I've used to live in Japan. That's part of the design of it. The interior design is seeing the carpentry.
Of course, yeah.
And I like that anyway as that aesthetic, but I also even more like the idea of seeing my friends bodge versions of it, you know, rather than it all being pristine, you know. I quite like that, as long as it passes building regs, but that's why you'd be there to tell us, try again.
Yeah. We do run courses, you know, like, and run build camps, you know, so we've all got a common interest in a project where you get some people turn up and we'll help to build, you know, with some teaching.
Well, this is effectively how, you know, if you're all right with it, how I want to do. So, you know, all this was sort of inspired by that, you know, Ben Law's grand design thing. But what I really loved about that was the fact that it was basically, he said, a catering operation, you know. Once he got the resources and everything ready, he got his mates, he cooked and fed them, and basically, but that was, you know, raising big heavy truck frames. This is much simpler, right? You know, there's no health and safety or less, not none. But I've just been asking friends, you know, in the village, friends from London, whatever, would you be interested in learning how to stick 2 round bits of wood together?
Yeah.
If you're really interested, you can spend £1,000 and go on a course with Dylan or Ben, or come to me for a few weekends and you get it for free and you get to practice on my house and then you can go home and do it yourself. I mean, this is where I may be deluded about it, so I'm a bit wary of it, but it doesn't look that hard. I mean, I've just been filming people doing it, but I mean, people used to do it all the time.
I think people are quite surprised what they can achieve as well.
Most of the people attending, they're already carpenters, or?
No, it's all walks of life turn up, and generally it's always the females that seem to do better carpentry.
I'll bear that in mind.
There's a little nod there. That's true, though. I think men tend to rush about a little bit, and then things go a little bit wrong sometimes.
So, Dylan, are you recommending I don't allow any blokes on the building site?
No, I think you can have a little competition.
And the blokes making the tea? Yeah.
Find the ones that are more like work cautious and stuff tend to do some quite good joinery.
That pretty much conforms with my life experience as well. But I mean, if we can, you know, again, looking back on the budget thing, which of course is the point of it, because if it's going to be £300,000, then it's a non-starter. But the labour would be a big part of that. And if we can use offcuts or, you know, find a way of making good use of the bits that have less value to you, but you're making anyway, and, you know, instead of going to firewood or whatever, then we may have a chance. Yeah. What could possibly go wrong?